Class, hello. I am actually presenting from the classroom on a Friday today, not at my house, but I was looking at the calendar and it's crazy. This is week 7. We've been together for 7 weeks, so we're halfway through with a trimester after this week, and that's kind of crazy. It's gone by really quick. Really enjoyed sharing this first half of my teaching trimester with you guys. You guys have been fun. I put you up to a bunch of things you might not enjoy, like acting. Um, but you guys have done a great job, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for making my first shot at business law a fun one. Today we are going over mistakes, misrepresentations, and fraud, and this all goes along with our contract law that we've been studying. So let's take a look. So, mistakes, you have two different kinds. All right. So, the first one is unilateral, which is where one party, UNA, has incorrect information about the laws or facts related to the contract. These are generally still valid and enforceable contracts. So, say that you signed something and you didn't read it. And you know, this kind of happens all the time if you think about it. You click on something online and it gives you the terms and conditions, and you quickly just hit accept. That's you accepting a contract. And so, if you were to do something or not know something about what you just clicked accept to, you're still on the hook. And there's been lawsuits out there, a few of them, where people have tried to sue to get out of a contract that they clicked online, and the courts have all said these are valid contracts. Um, the same goes with just not understanding technical terms. All right, so this is an example of why it's important to not only read what you're writing, or read what you're signing, but understand what you're signing too. And it's important to have an attorney, right? Because they're going to help you along the way with all of this to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing when you sign into a contract. The other mistake is mutual or bilateral. This is where both parties have incorrect information about material facts. And when we say material facts, we're looking at the important facts that influence the parties. So, mutual mistake about the idea of a subject. So, think about if you're selling 41 acres, but it's actually only 27. All right. So, that would be something where both parties thought they were getting 41, that's 27, contract's going to be voided. Some things are still valid. All right. So, say you are selling something, you think it's worth way less than it is, the other person doesn't know and they buy it and you find out later that it's worth a lot more than you thought. Well, you signed the contract, so you should have done that due diligence before you signed into it, before you made the offer. Now the contract's valid. Same with application of law. If everything is good within the confinements of the law, then the contract's going to be valid as well. Move this to the top so we can see the bottom of the screen. All right, so misrepresentation is false statements of fact made by one party to another, which kind of induce the party into the contract. So there's innocent misrepresentation, which is just being unaware of the fact. Kind of think of this as like a Pawn Stars type thing, where you maybe have like an old artifact or old antique that you thought was worth way more, or thought you always heard that it was belonged to George Washington and it was his coin in the Revolutionary War and blah 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 blah, and you go and do that and try to sell it as that. You honestly, that's probably an innocent misrepresentation. That's what you always thought, and you just didn't know better. Fraudulent misrepresentation is basically lying. You say one thing when you know for a fact that it's not true. It'd be like if I were selling this pen right here and said, this pen was used by Abraham Lincoln to write the Gettysburg Address. I know that's not true, but I'm trying to lie to you to get you to buy it. Um, Innocent and fraudulent misrepresentations are avoidable if facts were misrepresented. Misrepresented by the law if untrue statement or active concealment. Statement is material and victim relied on the statement. So example would be the engine or the statement can't be, it has to be a fact, not an opinion. All right. So an opinion would be this engine runs well versus a fact that this engine was rebuilt in 2018. If an expert makes an opinion statement, the statement is normally treated as fact, right? So if you have an engineer coming in and saying, oh, the engine runs well, I checked it out, then they'll probably treat that as a fact because this is someone who's a professional who made that opinion statement. Next thing we're looking at is concealment. So concealment is a false statement of fact. So think of this as an example: painting the ceiling. If you painted a ceiling to hide a stain due to a leaky roof. There's also silent concealments. So this is omitting material facts, right? So you can say to someone, "Hey, I only drove this car one time a week," but you omitted the fact that the one time the week you drove it was at a local drag strip. Um, True statement becomes false. So if a roof's not leaking, but a few days later it starts to leak, you have to come out and say that. Or incorrect basic assumption, and the seller knows it. So it'd be something like, I can see this foundation is solid, but you know that it floods every spring. All right, so those are things that can void a contract as well. Materiality is a significant issue such as a subject matter, price, significant issues such as subject matter, price, quantity, type of work to be done, etc. There's 3 ways to determine if this is material. One, the statement would cause a reasonable person to contract. If the defendant knew this plaintiff would rely on the statement, or the defendant knew the statement was false. So those are all things that we look at when we're looking at materiality to see if this is going to be a voided contract. Reasonable reliance is where the victim must reasonably rely on the material information. So an example would be like if the seller says he put new tires on a car when it's clear 2 of them are really old. And you look at fraud, which is just misrepresentation with a statement that was made recklessly or intentionally, and it results in injury. So if fraud is proven, then there's 3 remedies for it. So rescission, which voids the contract for the injured party, and returns everything. All right. So if you gave someone money for something, fraud was determined, rescission would basically give you your money back while giving the person who committed fraud whatever they gave you. Damages are if fraud is proven. So you can seek damages for the loss created by the fraud. Typically, this will be money, something like that, something that gives the injured person something in return for you committing the fraud. And then punitive damages punishes someone for committing fraud. So again, this can be financially. Sometimes if it's big enough, you can serve jail time, right? So that is remedies for fraud. Today it's kind of a lighter day. I'm gonna throw a lot at you in class on Monday or Tuesday, so I figure I give you your virtual day a little time off. If you are watching this on Monday, you have your test tomorrow. Make sure to study the study guide. Watch my fun video explaining things, and you should do pretty well on the test. If you're watching this Tuesday, I hope you did well on the test. Take a little bit of a breather today, and I will see you in class on Wednesday. Take care, guys.